super helpful. So today we're going to be talking about sales kickoffs and how to make them stick. I'm Julie Newhouse, and I lead sales enablement at Lyft, specifically for Lyft Business. So really the B2B arm within the larger company of Lyft that houses all of our sales teams. So I have over almost a decade of sales kickoff experience under my belt. Some have been great. Some have been a little bit rocky. So I'm going to tell you a few things that I've learned over the different types of SCOs that I've worked with. So we'll start out with a quick intro and background, and then go through what I'm calling the SCOFR. So hopefully a good acronym that you can remember, but it's really the three principles that you can apply to your sales kickoffs to make the content really sticky. And then we'll end with Q&A. So before I dive in, I wanted to tell you a story. So think back, it's 2016. It's my second week at Lyft, brand new job, brand new team. It's an emerging sales team. I really know nothing about the stakeholders. I know nothing about the team members, very little about what we sell. And my boss says, oh, hey, we have a sales kickoff on the books. We need you to plan it. It's in 3 weeks. I said, oh, okay. Well, that's a little overwhelming, but guess I have to go with it. So I did my best to figure out what we needed to cover and who the key players were. Wasn't the best sales kickoff that I ever, put together. Made a lot of rookie mistakes on that one where I took in content from a lot of different people. I trusted the judgment of importance from some teams versus other teams. So, the agenda was a little rocky, but we had people coming in town, had to roll with it. So fast forward to the Monday before the sales kickoff, and I get an email from our office team saying, ooh, by the way, there's going to be some light construction in the space that you're having your event in this week. Okay. Well, just going to have to keep rolling with the punches. At that time, there was no way to get a new venue. There was no way to figure out a different, a catering solution. So we just had to get sort of startup scrappy and go with what we had. So the last minute decided to pivot and come up with a makeshift kitchen and have all of our sales leaders and sales execs cooking breakfast for the team. So they were flipping pancakes for all their sales reps, and we bought pink Lyft hard hats and just made a big joke out of the construction site. So it took, a lot of craziness and still made it into a fun experience for the team. And I think that ended up being one of the more memorable moments of the event. So sales kickoffs, they're fun, they're awful, they're exhausting, they're memorable, they're terrifying, a little bit of everything. So there's really an evolution of a sales kickoff. And my first one at Lyft was clearly in this low budget, homegrown bucket where we were working with limited resources. We had a small sales team of, I think, only about 45, 50 people at that time, and really no budget to speak of. If you're lucky and your company's evolving more into this medium-sized budget where there actually is some money to plan this event, the sales team's getting a little bit bigger. You might be able to have it externally at an off-site venue, have some cool speakers come in. This is really a fun space to be in when you're planning your sales kickoffs because there's a lot that you can do. And if you're really lucky in a much larger company, think like the Amazon, the Google, the Facebooks of the world, and have this huge and limited budget, you're in a whole different playing field, and likely you can outsource it to another company. But at the end of the day, no matter the size of your sales team and the size of your company and where you are in this growth stage, a few principles apply to all three. So the SCOFR, this stands for focus. So do you have a primary outcome, a learning goal for your event? And going back to the last presentation, this is really your Wesleyan buttercup. What is the one thing that you have to get done? The second piece is immersion. How are you going to take the sort of passive intake of content and make it experiential and make it stick? The third piece is retention. SCO absolutely has to be part of a larger plan, or you've automatically sort of set yourself up for failure. So focus and theme. This is maybe the most important and oftentimes the most challenging piece. So you have to seek out who in your organization is the real decision maker driving the sales kickoff. You're going to get a lot of different people's opinions on what it needs to be about. You might have sort of a fluffy tagline coming from the marketing department. You might have a revenue goal coming from the sales team and a bunch of things in between. But it's important to figure out who actually makes that decision at the end of the day. So at Lyft, that's been our chief revenue officer. At smaller companies, sometimes that's a CEO. It really just depends. And it's up to us as enablement professionals to ask the questions and figure out who is really going to be deciding what we need to get out of this. Once you figured out what your critical stakeholder is, you need to figure out what the goal is. And it's just very simple to come up with a primary learning objective. And once you have that, you're able to build the rest of your day around that theme. And it'll indicate how the whole event looks and feels, down to the activities that you're doing, the signage, really everything then starts to be built around that primary goal. And my favorite part about once you've locked down this goal, this learning objective, this primary focus, is it allows you to gatekeep all the content requests that are coming at you. So even while I've been at this conference this week, I've had 3 different emails from other team members saying, oh, hey, I know you're working on the SCO agenda for March. We really need to get this Salesforce name change field update in there. Can we get that on the books? So I can politely say, no, this is what we're doing this year. Everything outside of that's going to have to wait for a team meeting or another comm that we are sending out. So for us, 2020 is all about what we're calling getting back to basics, the core 4. So, our sales team's gone through a lot of different reorgs and refocuses in the last couple of years. And 2019 was really the Wild West, where people were selling to all kinds of different customers, sometimes selling products that didn't even really exist. And we reorged down into basically 4 sales plays. And we want our team to be able to leave knowing this is exactly who you're selling to, how you're selling, and this is our 2020 strategy. Everything outside of it is noise. So for us, this is when we're unveiling our sales playbook, which is the first one that we're having at Lyft. It's a formal, living, breathing document for the whole team to use. Quick show of hands. Who has a SCO coming up? One in the back. Did you guys already have yours? Yeah. Ours is a little late this year at the beginning of Q2, but, gotta get it done. So the second principle I'd like to spend some time on is immersion. And this is the idea of how are you going to take your content? You've got all of your sellers in a room. They're sitting, they're listening. What are you going to do to make this memorable and to really, if you've heard the term dog fooding, use your own products. Get back to what you really do, what your team does, and having this immersive experience. You see immersions a lot with customer service organizations where you'd have an exec or a leader come in and shadow and even handle support calls. So getting back into what exactly you do and spending time practicing it. This could be as simple as having a pitch competition. So they learn something and they do head-to-head pitching. It can be live Q&A and testing. And we've done a lot of things where we use an app to really manage that, to be asking questions back and forth to the audience. It really could be just about anything, but you're thinking about what is this sort of passive topic that I need to get across and how can they practice it? It's the only way the information sticks is taking it off the slide and into the world. So I wanted to share what we did last year because I think it was a pretty good example of how the successful immersion can work. Obviously, Lyft is a transportation company. We put people in cars and bikes and scooters all day long. We're moving people from point A to point B. But a lot of times we forget what that experience is like for our business customers. What is it like for them if they are a partner with Lyft? And how are we going to get the whole team together to remember what that looks like? So what we did was break our sales team into small groups, and they were all assigned this immersion roadmap. So they were being sent out to different client partner sites around San Francisco in lifts with a group of people. And we made sure to seed the groups with a sales rep, an account manager, someone from product, maybe somebody from engineering, to really have this cross-section of people all being able to start the dialogue of what we were doing. So Lyft does a lot in the healthcare space. So one place we did, we sent them to the Children's Hospital. We had someone staged in the lobby. And once they got there, they actually reenacted what it's like for healthcare clients to be calling Lyfts for patients to get to and from medical appointments. And what that did was really open up the eyes of really the whole team of here's where our clients are having challenges. Think about being in a hospital, main area, and you look around, there's probably 7 or 8 different places that you can get picked up. Well, our clients complain about high cancellation rates in the healthcare space. And really it's because the drivers just can't find the person that they're picking up. And so to have everybody out in the world, in the car, going through this as if they were a patient and a client of Lyft's, it was incredibly enlightening. So our product team said, oh, that's why this is so high. Oh, this is why this client is complaining. So throughout the day, they went through several different ones and different type of verticals that we work with, different type of clients. And they were sourcing back product feedback. And what we did real time was at the end of SCO, we were able to have them vote on different product features on the roadmap to helpfully then prioritize what products we'll be working on the second half. So really taking this experience of this is what we do, this is what our clients look to us for, and this is how we solve it. So it was a really great experience, super memorable. It brought home what we were trying to do with the past SCO, which was more product focused. And I think just a great example of how you can take your product and bring it to life. So I got to practice what I preach. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a quick homework assignment with your table groups. Think about one company among your group that would lend itself to immersion activity and come up with something quick that you could do for the team members. Could be in a SCO environment, could be just an activity that you want to do with the sales team. But pick one product or one company and product that seems like it would lend itself and come up with a quick activity. We'll take about 3 minutes to do this, and then hopefully we have a volunteer, and if not, I'm going to call on a table to share which one they came up with. Make sense? Great. Okay, we'll do one more minute. All right, let's bring it back together. Hopefully, I know that was pretty quick. All right. Who thinks they have a great idea to share? Do we have a brave volunteer? Nobody? All right, awesome. Let's hear it. Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. That's definitely happened to me. Yeah, I love that. I think Instacart's a great example, especially if you're working in a lot of these companies that are doing any sort of like transportation or delivery and like app-based services. You sort of forget what it's like to be out in the world doing it when you're trying to put together a marketing campaign and you're trying to train salespeople on how to pitch this to a client. So getting back out into the world, I think it's a great idea, and that's a really good example. It really comes down to just figuring out what can you do to make your learning moment experiential. Because even just talking through it, getting the energy back up in the room, it does great things for a sales kickoff in that organization. And again, it could be as simple as having people submit video submissions live. We've done people sort of recording quick pitches or objection handling and stuff, and doing some like head-to-head things, just using all of these different like multimodal and app-based tools that we have available. So SCOs have come a long way, and I think that, really taking the time to figure out how to make it experiential is how you're going to make it stick. And the last piece that I'll touch on today is post-planning. It might sound really simple and really basic, but you have to follow up with what you just kicked off. And if you're doing that after the fact, it's going to be messy. So your SCO has to be part of a larger plan that you have in place. And it should really be setting you up for either that quarter, that half, that year, depending on the frequency that, your company is planning these events. Things that have worked really well is just having this plan in place so that when the team leaves, they go back to their home offices, they know what the next milestone or piece of information they have to submit or certification, whatever that might be, that they know what's coming. So you're leaving with a tangible action plan and takeaway that the team is working for. It also helps with like their engagement during the event if they know they're going to be either, tested or quizzed or some sort of learning check, knowledge check on the content following the event. And the piece that I found that really sort of makes or breaks the stickiness of SCOs is the idea of frontline manager buy-in. So I try to bring our managers in early so they know what's happening at SCO, they're involved at SCO, they're presenting, because they're the ones that are really going to take this back into the offices, the teams, the remote locations, and be your sort of your best weapon to getting the information to stick. So if they're the ones either doing the mock pitches, they're the ones doing the quizzing, they're doing the shadowing, they're doing the coaching, really making that part of your SCO plan before you even have the event, I found to be incredibly successful. One thing you can think of, if there's even some kind of like manager spiff that you can get, where they're being rewarded for great success afterwards, that also helps get them a little more engaged into helping your message and helping your content out in the world. So that's all I have for today, but hoping that you can leave this session with SCO FIR. So having your focus, your immersion, and then your retention plan built out, you'll definitely have great SCOs in 2020. So we have a few minutes, I think, left for Q&A. It depends. So it really depends on what the initial theme was. So this one, it's going to be mock pitches on this core 4 sales plays. So we'll be giving them prep materials on what they can expect. They have the playbook to study from. They have some interactive resources, but they'll be doing video submissions for that one. It depends on the scale of it. So this one, it'll be myself, somebody else on my team, and then one of the managers. Let's need a little more, resources to do all 150 people. Yeah, so in past years, I've done just a standard survey sent out after. Definitely take everything into account. Take it with a grain of salt. Some people don't like whatever you serve for dinner, and can't please everybody. And most recently, in the last year or so, when we've moved to using an app to manage the event, we do it either in real time after the session. We'll ping them to submit feedback on that session right away, or at the end of the day, and finding that we get a lot more feedback when it's in the moment rather than sending it out a day or two later. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lyft Business really focuses on what we call employee solutions. So any company with business travelers, healthcare, and then the automotive industry. Yeah, so we actually work directly with the company, and then the company's employees become the riders. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that in that situation, it would have to be some type of real-time submission of something. So maybe people are, completing a task and submitting a photo, or a real-time group collaboration. So I think you'd have to kind of get creative of what you could do as it's happening with some of those other mediums. Yeah, so thinking back on that one, Lyfts have been a little bit stranger because the way that we sell and the reps are comped is not as traditional as a sales org, but in other companies I've worked for, we've either had it tied to if we launched a product at SCO or a new sales motion, then we would have SPIFs tied to adoption or implementation of that product. So it could be an extra $500 for every deal closed that included this specific product line. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it as well. I'd actually be curious if other people are doing it too. I've actually shied away from it because I found that a lot of times people just didn't do it, and it became a waste of time. The effort we were putting in was just not coming back out. But if anyone's doing it successfully, I'd love to hear that too. Yeah, that's a great idea, tying into registration, so you're forcing the motion. I love that. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, knowing that everybody's, in theory, coming with the right level of knowledge. Yeah. I'm not sure where we are in time. 2 minutes. One question then. 90 minutes? Oh my gosh, that's a good question. I think that you would have to be really clear and really specific on what you want to get out of it so that it doesn't turn into just like an oversized all hands meeting. So I don't know how much learning you can get done in that time, so maybe it's a good idea to spend it being a little bit more like either visionary, mission setting, a really engaging speaking moment rather than trying to have it be like all things. Because sometimes when I found that when we're trying to do things in a smaller time, you're just doing these really quick updates and you just use the time so quickly that nothing really comes out of it. Cool. Well, thank you so much and good luck with your kickoffs this year.